My son screamed at me during Thanksgiving dinner. "You will never be half the woman my mother-in-law is." I looked him right in the eyes and said very quietly, "Then maybe she can pay the huge bills I have been paying for you. 'Cause I'm stopping today." His wife turned white as snow. "What bills? What are you talking about? We never got any help from you." He looked scared and started sweating. If you are watching this right now, please subscribe to Granny's Voice and tell me in the comments where you are watching from. Let me tell you how this whole mess started because you need to hear everything to understand why that moment felt so good. My name is Dorothy Chen, but everybody just calls me. I am 65 years old and I thought I had seen every hard thing life could throw at me. I raised my son Marcus all by myself after his daddy ran away when Marcus was only 6 years old. I worked at a hospital cleaning floors and rooms for 30 years to make sure Marcus had food and clothes. I was so proud of the man he became, even though we never had fancy things. But Marcus had very different ideas about our story and about me. It was a cold Wednesday night in January when Marcus showed up at my tiny apartment wearing a suit that cost more money than I made in a whole month. He had been living in a fancy part of the city for 4 years, telling everyone he worked in something called tech consulting, but he never explained what that actually meant. "Mom, we need to have a serious talk," he said without even giving me a hug first. "Sure, honey. Do you want some tea?" "I do not have time for tea, Mom. This is important." He sat down on my old couch like he thought it might be dirty. "I need you to listen very carefully. When I bring Amanda to meet you next week, you cannot tell her about how poor we were when I was growing up." Amanda was the girlfriend he mentioned only one time before on the phone. "What do you mean about how we lived?" "We had a good home, Marcus. We were happy." He made a mean sound like a laugh but angry. "Mom, we were broke. Really broke. Food bank broke." She does not need to know any of that stuff. Those words hurt me like someone had hit me in the stomach. We did use the food bank sometimes, yes, but we never went hungry. I made sure of that every single day. Marcus, we were never on the streets. I worked 3 different jobs to keep us safe and fed. "I know, Mom. But listen to me. Amanda comes from a family with lots and lots of money. Her parents own a big company called Chen Digital Systems. They have millions and millions of dollars." He looked at me with eyes that seemed different, harder. "This is my one chance, Mom. My only shot at having the kind of life I should have had all along." I just stared at my son and realized he was someone I did not know anymore. "The kind of life you should have had. What does that even mean, Marcus?" "You know exactly what I mean. Not this." He waved his hand around my small apartment like it made him sick. "I worked too hard to let our past ruin everything I am building now." That was when I understood something terrible. Marcus had been ashamed of me for a very long time, maybe for years and years. The phone calls that happened less and less. The holidays when he said he had to work. The way he never once invited me to see where he lived. "When can I meet this Amanda girl?" I asked in a soft voice. And please just try not to talk too much about the old days. Let them think whatever they want to think about us." After Marcus left that night, I sat in my kitchen and cried. I wondered when my own son started thinking I was something to hide and be embarrassed about. The funny thing is that Marcus wanted to pretend our past never happened. This was extra strange because of how hard I had fought to give him any kind of normal childhood after his father decided we were not worth staying for. Robert Chen was one of those men who makes big promises but cannot even remember to pay the electric bill on time. We were both 23 years old when Marcus was born, living in a cramped apartment with barely any furniture. We both had jobs that did not pay much, but we dreamed about making things better. "We are going to give this baby everything," Robert would say while holding tiny baby Marcus. "Everything we never had growing up." But what Marcus never got was a father who stayed. Robert would get excited about crazy ideas to make fast money. Selling insurance to people door to door. Trying to get our friends to buy vitamins. Playing with stocks using money we needed for rent. Every time something failed, Robert got more angry and more mean. The last straw happened when Marcus was 8 years old. Robert told me he had a special tip about a stock that would definitely make us rich. He used our rent money without asking me. When all that money disappeared in one day, he looked at me and said, "I cannot do this anymore. This family is holding me back from success. He packed one small bag and walked out the door. No note. No address where we could find him. No money for Marcus. No explanation for a little boy about why Daddy was not coming home anymore. That first year alone was the hardest time of my whole entire life. I worked at a restaurant serving breakfast and lunch from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Then I cleaned office buildings from 3 until 7 at night. Then I watched Mrs. Park's 3 little kids so she would watch Marcus after school for free. I only slept about 4 hours every night and I lived on coffee and cheap noodles. But we survived. Marcus never missed a meal, not even once. He never went to school in dirty or torn clothes. He never knew about the nights I stayed awake doing math to figure out if we had enough money for his school supplies or if I needed to work extra weekend hours. I thought I was teaching him to be grateful and to work hard. Instead, I guess I was making a man who spent his grown-up years wishing none of it ever happened. The worst part. I was so proud of Marcus. When he finished college, the first person in our family ever to do that, I cried happy tears through the whole ceremony. When he got his first real job at a tech company, I told everyone who would listen. My son works with computers in the big city, I would say to the other cleaning ladies at the hospital. I gave up everything so Marcus could have chances I never got. Now he was using those chances to climb so high up that he could not even see me down below anymore. 2 weeks after Marcus came to my apartment, he called to say Amanda wanted to have lunch with me. Somewhere nice but not too fancy, he said very specifically. What that really meant was, fancy enough to fool his girlfriend but not so fancy that my mother will look too out of place. And Mom, maybe wear that green dress. You know, the one from the department store. The one he bought me when he finished college 7 years ago. It was the only nice dress I owned that did not come from the thrift shop. I said okay to lunch, but I already felt worried about what parts of myself I would need to hide. The restaurant Marcus picked was the type of place where the people who work there wear bow ties and the salads cost more than I used to spend on food for a whole week. I got there 15 minutes early wearing the green dress and feeling very nervous about being judged. Amanda Chen was exactly what I expected and nothing like what I hoped for. She had shiny black hair and perfect skin and that kind of easy beauty that comes from good genes and expensive face creams. But she was also really, genuinely nice and sweet. Mrs. Chen, I am so excited to finally meet you. Marcus talks about you constantly. I looked quickly at Marcus, who was staring at the menu like it had the answers to a big test. I hope he says good things about me. Oh yes, absolutely. He told me you are super strong and independent. He clearly learned his work ethic from you. Work ethic. That was Marcus's clean version of my mother worked herself nearly to death to keep us from living on the streets. Lunch was actually better than I thought it would be. Amanda asked about my job. I told her I had just retired from the hospital, which was true. She asked about Marcus growing up. I told her carefully chosen stories about baseball games and school plays, leaving out the parts about uniforms from yard sales and me falling asleep in the bleachers because I had worked 2 shifts before the game. Marcus relaxed as lunch went on, probably relieved I was not telling stories about government cheese and our power getting shut off. You raised such an amazing man, Amanda said sweetly while we waited for the check. I cannot wait for you to meet my parents. They're going to absolutely love you. That was when Marcus's shoulders got tight and stiff again. Meeting the parents. The rich parents. The parents who own companies instead of scrubbing floors in them. After Amanda left to use the bathroom, Marcus leaned across the table toward me. You did great, Mom. Really great. She likes you a lot. She seems like a wonderful girl, Marcus. She really cares about you. She does. And her family, they could really help my career move forward. Her father knows everyone important in the tech industry. There it was. The real reason Marcus was so worried about me making a good impression. Amanda was not just his girlfriend. She was a business opportunity he could use. Just remember what we talked about, Marcus added quietly. About keeping our past private. And Amanda thinks you like your privacy. I told her you are very private about money stuff, especially since you have had some bad experiences with people trying to use you. I stared at my son in shock. Even his reasons for my fake behavior were lies. She actually thinks it is cool how independent you are, he kept talking. Most rich parents are always butting into their kids' lives and telling them what to do with money and business. She respects that you raised me to take care of myself. Take care of myself. While I was paying his bills every single month. I wanted to ask him what was so shameful about a mother who loved him enough to give up everything. But instead I just nodded and smiled, playing my part in his fake story. As I watched Amanda come back from the bathroom laughing at something Marcus whispered, I could not help wondering what would happen when she eventually found out the truth. Because in my experience, lies always fall apart at the worst possible time. And Marcus had been telling some really big lies. Some lies I was only starting to learn about. Over the next few months, their relationship moved really fast. Marcus started bringing Amanda to family events, or really the fake version of family events he had created. Dinners at expensive restaurants where I was introduced as a retired professional instead of a woman who spent 30 years on her hands and knees scrubbing other people's floors. I played along because I loved my son and wanted him to be happy. But every single lie felt like another brick in a wall he was building between us. What I did not know then was that Marcus's web of lies went far beyond just hiding where we came from. The phone call that changed absolutely everything came on a Saturday morning in October, 3 years after Marcus started his tech job. I was getting dressed for the day when my phone rang at 7 in the morning. "Mom, I need help." Marcus's voice sounded shaky and terrified. "I need help right now and you cannot ask me questions." My heart started beating fast. "Marcus, what is wrong? Are you hurt? Did someone hurt you?" "I am not hurt, Mom. But I am in really big trouble. Really big trouble. I need $80,000. $80,000. I made $25,000 a year at my best job. Baby, I do not have that kind of money. What is this about? What happened? Mom, please. I cannot explain everything on the phone, but there are people, really bad, dangerous people. And they said they will hurt me badly if I do not pay them by Monday morning." My son was crying. My 32-year-old son was sobbing into the phone like he was 6 years old again and had fallen off his bike. "Marcus, you need to call the police right now if someone is threatening to hurt you." "Cannot call the police, Mom. You do not understand what is happening. I did something bad. I made some really bad choices with money that was not really mine to use. It was supposed to be temporary. Just for a little while until this big deal went through. But everything went completely wrong. The pieces started making sense in my head. The expensive clothes. The fancy apartment. The confident way he talked about building his future. None of it was real. How much do you owe in total? Tell me the truth." Silence on the phone. Then a whisper so quiet I could barely hear it. "About $200,000. $200,000. More money than I would make in 8 years of working full-time." "Marcus, how did you get that much money?" "It was a system, Mom. This guy at work showed me how it worked. We would borrow from client accounts just temporarily, invest that money in really good opportunities, make a profit, then pay back the original amount plus extra. Everybody wins and makes money. That is called stealing, Marcus. That is theft. It is not like that, Mom. We were helping people grow their investments and make more money. But this last deal, the one that was supposed to pay for everything and fix it all, it did not just fail. Completely crashed and burned. And now the clients want all their money back right away. And the dangerous people I borrowed from to cover the difference, they do not give second chances." I sat down on my bed feeling dizzy. My son was a thief. A thief who was about to get badly hurt by loan sharks. "Give me their phone number," I said finally after a long silence. "No. Cannot ask you to do this. You're not asking me, Marcus. I'm telling you. Give me their number and then you need to tell me exactly how we are going to fix this whole mess." The next morning, which was Sunday, I was sitting in First Community Bank talking to a loan officer about using my perfect credit history that I built over 30 years of never missing a payment on my little house. By noon, I was at City Trust Bank talking about a personal loan using my retirement savings as security. By the time the banks closed, I was at Neighborhood Credit Union signing papers for a credit line. It took me 3 different banks, lots of paperwork, and every single penny I had saved, but I got enough money to save my son's life. The monthly payments would take almost half of my income. But Marcus promised he would help pay the money back once he got back on his feet. You saved my life, Mom, he said while hugging me so tight when I gave him the bank checks. I am never going to forget this. I'm going to make this right and pay you back. That was 3 years ago. In all that time, Marcus had made exactly 5 payments toward those loans. 5 payments out of 36. $400 a month while he somehow kept his expensive lifestyle going on his regular salary from the tech company. But that was not even the worst part of this story. The worst part was that while I was selling everything I owned and putting my future at risk to save him, Marcus was telling Amanda and her rich family that he was a successful tech consultant who never needed help from anyone. The lies kept getting bigger and bigger, and the house of cards kept getting shakier and shakier. I should have known it would all come crashing down eventually. Marcus's engagement announcement came through a text message. Not a phone call where we could talk. Not a visit to my apartment. Not even a real conversation. Just, Amanda said yes. Engagement party next month. Details coming soon. I stared at that message for a long time, trying to decide if I was more hurt by how impersonal it was or by knowing I was clearly not important in my son's big life moments. The details, when they finally came in the mail, were for a cocktail party at Amanda's parents' country club. Cocktail attire requested, the invitation said in fancy letters. I had been to exactly 0 cocktail parties in my 65 years of life. I called Marcus to congratulate him properly and also to ask the question that had been bothering me since I got the invitation. Sweetheart, I am so happy for you both. Amanda is such a sweet girl. Thanks, Mum. She really is special. I am very lucky to have her. I was wondering about the engagement party. Will this be the first time I meet her parents and extended family? A long pause on the phone. Mom, about that situation. I need to ask you something important, and I need you to listen to the whole thing before you say no. My stomach felt sick. What is it, Marcus? What do you need? Amanda's family, they are very different from us. They live in a world where appearances and impressions matter a lot for business. Business gets done based on relationships and how people see you. Marcus, just tell me what you want me to do. I need you to let them think we are more financially comfortable than we actually are right now. You want me to lie about our situation and our past. I want you to be vague about your background and history. Do not volunteer information about the jobs you worked or how we lived back then. Just let them assume things and draw their own conclusions. I thought about those loan payments I had been making faithfully every single month while eating rice and beans so Marcus could keep his shameful secret hidden from his fiancée's family. And if they ask me direct questions, what then? Just redirect the conversation, Mom. Talk about my success instead or ask them questions about their business. Rich people love talking about themselves and their accomplishments. Rich people. As if he was not talking about his future in-laws. People who were about to become his family. Marcus, what happens when Amanda finds out the truth eventually? About your debts. About what I gave up to save you. She is not going to find out unless you tell her, Mom. And why would you do that? It would destroy everything we have built together. Everything we have built. He meant everything he had built on top of lies. I will do my best to be vague and private, I said finally. But I will not tell direct lies to these people, Marcus. That is all I am asking for, Mom. Just do not volunteer information that might make things complicated and awkward. After I hung up the phone, I sat in my kitchen and looked around my modest apartment. The furniture I bought from yard sales and thrift stores. The dishes I collected using points from the grocery store. The stack of bills on the counter that included those loan payments for Marcus's criminal mistakes. I had spent 3 years paying for my son's crimes while he courted a woman whose family thought he was financially successful and self-made. I had kept his secret. I had protected his reputation. I had enabled his lies and deception. And now he wanted me to actively participate in lying to the woman he claimed to love. The engagement party was in 2 weeks. I needed to find something appropriate to wear. Something that would not embarrass Marcus or make people ask questions about our financial comfort. I ended up spending $300 I absolutely could not afford on a simple navy dress and matching shoes. Money that should have gone toward groceries or medicine or the dental bills from my tooth extraction last month. But I did it because I loved my son. And because I still believe that somewhere underneath all these lies was the little boy who used to hug me tight and tell me I was the strongest person in the whole world. I was about to discover just how wrong I was about who my son had really become. The Chen family's country club was like something from a movie about rich people. Shiny marble floors. Giant sparkling chandeliers. Waiters in tuxedos walking around silently with champagne on silver trays. I arrived exactly on time wearing my new dress and feeling like a complete fraud. Amanda saw me right away and rushed over looking beautiful in a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my rent for a month. "Mrs. Chen, you look so beautiful. Come meet everyone." She took my arm gently and walked me toward a group of very elegantly dressed people who were clearly the important inner circle. Patricia Chen, Amanda's mother, was exactly what I expected her to be. Tall with perfect hair and makeup. Carrying herself with the easy confidence that comes from never worrying about money for even one day. "Mother, this is Marcus's mom, Dorothy." Patricia's smile was polished and practiced but seemed warm. "Dorothy, how wonderful to finally meet you. Amanda speaks so highly of you, and we are absolutely thrilled about the engagement. Thank you so much. You have raised a truly beautiful daughter inside and out. Marcus is very lucky." "And what do you do, Dorothy?" Patricia asked the question all mothers ask when they are sizing up their children's significant others and their families. This was the moment Marcus had coached me for over and over. Be vague, he had said. Let them draw their own conclusions and make assumptions. "I recently retired," I said very carefully. "I spent most of my career in hospitality and facility management." Technically true if you think about it. Waiting tables is hospitality. Cleaning buildings is facility management. Patricia nodded like she approved. "It is so smart to retire young enough to enjoy your life. What are your plans now? Travel? Hobbies?" Before I could come up with an answer, Marcus appeared next to me with Amanda's father, William Chen. He looked younger than I expected, maybe 55, with that easy confidence that comes from inherited generational wealth. "Dad, this is my mother, Dorothy Chen." William shook my hand with a firm grip. "Pleasure to meet you, Dorothy. Marcus has told us wonderful things about you." I glanced at Marcus real quick, wondering what exactly he had shared with them. "All good things, I hope," I said. Of course. He says you are incredibly independent and self-sufficient." Clearly raised him to be exactly the same way. Self-sufficient. Another cleaned-up version of struggled and scraped by for 30 years. The conversation went easier than I expected it to go. Patricia talked about wedding plans and ideas. William asked my thoughts on technology and the economy. I found myself almost enjoying the evening. These were genuinely nice people despite all their money. They clearly loved Amanda very much and seemed to really like Marcus. That is when I overheard the conversation that changed absolutely everything. I was getting a glass of water from the bar area when I heard Marcus's voice behind me. He was talking to a group of Amanda's cousins and family friends. "The key is smart diversification," he was saying in a confident voice. "My investment portfolio has been consistently beating the market averages for 4 years running. I only do conservative investments, blue-chip reliable stocks. Nothing too risky or crazy." I turned around slightly, curious about this version of Marcus's financial philosophy that I was hearing. "That is really impressive," one of the young men said. "Especially in this unpredictable market. You must have started with substantial seed capital to see those kinds of returns and results." Marcus laughed casually like it was no big deal. "Well, I have been fortunate. Family money gave me a really good head start, and I have been building on that foundation ever since." Family money. I almost dropped my water glass on the floor. "Smart parents," another man commented and agreed. "Setting up their kids for success right from the beginning. That is the key." Absolutely right. My mother made some very shrewd and smart investments over the years. Real estate and property mostly. She always had a really good eye for potential opportunities. I stood there frozen at the bar, listening to my son describe a life that never existed anywhere. In Marcus's fake version of reality, I was not a working-class single mother who mortgaged her future to save him from dangerous criminals. I was a savvy real estate investor who built wealth over time and passed it down to him. The lies were not just about hiding our humble past anymore. He was actively rewriting history completely, making himself the beneficiary of generational wealth, instead of the son of a woman who sacrificed absolutely everything to give him opportunities. But the worst part was still coming. As I walked back toward Amanda and Patricia, I heard Marcus's voice again, louder now, getting bolder because of champagne and the admiring attention of his audience. The best part is I will never have to worry about taking care of her in her old age and retirement. She is way more financially secure than I am. Will ever be. The whole room felt like it was spinning around me. My son was telling people I was wealthy, that I did not need his help ever, that he would never have to support me. Meanwhile, I was living on Social Security and 2 part-time jobs because 60% of my income went to paying off the debts I took on to save his life. I made it through the rest of that evening on autopilot, smiling, nodding, playing the part of the mysterious well-off mother perfectly. But inside I was adding up exactly how much Marcus's lies had cost me. $400 every single month for 3 years. And I was wondering what price I would have to pay for his happily ever after. The dinner invitation came 3 weeks later. Not just any dinner. A formal family dinner at the Chen estate to properly welcome Dorothy into our family circle before wedding planning goes into full swing. Marcus called me 4 times that week with increasingly specific and detailed instructions. Arrive at 7 o'clock exactly. Wear something elegant but not flashy. Do not mention specific neighborhoods where we lived. Do not talk about food assistance programs even in general terms. And Mom, Patricia mentioned she might ask about your investment strategies since I told them you were financially savvy and smart. Just keep everything really general and vague. Marcus, I have never made an investment in my entire life except buying my little house. You do not need to lie, Mom. Just redirect the conversation back to something else. Ask her about her business ventures instead. The Chen estate was intimidating even by rich people's standards. A circular driveway led up to a mansion that belonged in magazines, surrounded by gardens that probably needed a whole team of gardeners. Patricia greeted me at the front door herself, looking effortlessly elegant in a silk blouse and pearl necklace. Dorothy, how lovely to see you again. Please come inside. William is mixing cocktails in the study. The dining room could have easily seated 25 people comfortably. Tonight it was set for just 6 people. Chen's, Marcus and Amanda. Me. I had never eaten off china plates that thin or used silverware that heavy in my life. Dinner started smoothly enough. William talked about his latest business acquisition deal. Patricia shared updates about Amanda's younger brother who was studying medicine abroad. Marcus was the charming, successful son-in-law-to-be. Then Patricia turned to me with genuine interest in her eyes. Dorothy, I have to ask you something. Marcus mentioned you have quite the talent for investments. I am always looking for fresh perspectives and ideas. What is your philosophy on portfolio diversification? I felt Marcus's eyes burning into me from across the table. This was exactly the scenario he had been dreading and warning me about. Oh, I am much more conservative and simple than Marcus makes me sound, I said very carefully. Believe in the basics. Pay your bills on time. Save what you can. Do not spend money you do not actually have. Patricia nodded approvingly like she agreed. Sound principles. Very wise. And Marcus mentioned you have been quite successful with real estate ventures. Real estate. My one tiny house that I almost lost forever to pay his debts. I have been fortunate, I said quietly. Which was not technically a lie. Modest as always. Marcus jumped in with a nervous laugh. Mom's portfolio has been outperforming mine for years, but she refuses to admit it or take credit. That is when William added the comment that started everything unraveling and falling apart. It is refreshing to meet parents who have built something substantial to pass down to the next generation. So many young people today expect success without putting in the work or having any foundation. Actually, I said slowly, I think young people today face challenges our generation could not imagine back then. Marcus's success is entirely his own achievement. 100% his own. The room went completely silent. Marcus's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Really? Patricia seemed genuinely surprised. The way Marcus talks about growing up, I assumed he had advantages. Private tutors. Family connections in the industry. I looked at my son. This stranger who had rewritten our entire history to impress his in-laws. Marcus went to public school, I said quietly but clearly. We did not have money for private education or tutors. Mom, Marcus's voice carried a clear warning tone. But something had shifted and changed inside me. Maybe it was the months of enabling his lies. Maybe it was the elegant dining room that reminded me how different our worlds really were. Or maybe it was just 30 years of putting his needs before my own dignity and truth. We lived in a cramped apartment with old furniture, I continued. I worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat and surviving after his father abandoned us. Marcus earned every scholarship, every opportunity, every success through his own hard work and determination. Amanda was staring at Marcus now. Confusion and concern clear on her face. William and Patricia exchanged quick glances. That is even more impressive, Patricia said diplomatically, trying to ease the tension. Self-made success is the most meaningful kind there is. Marcus forced a tight smile. Mom likes to exaggerate how hard things were. She has always been overly dramatic about our family's resources and situation. Dramatic. The word came out before I could stop it. Marcus, there is nothing dramatic about telling the truth. Mom, please stop. But I was done. Completely done. Done with the lies. Done with protecting his carefully constructed fake image. Done with pretending our struggle was something shameful to hide. Your son is a truly incredible man, I said directly to Patricia and William. He graduated college on full academic scholarships while working part-time jobs at night. He built his career from absolutely nothing with no family connections or inherited advantages whatsoever. You should be proud to have him joining your family. The silence stretched out until Amanda finally spoke. Her voice sounded small and uncertain. Marcus, is what your mom is saying true? About growing up with financial struggles. Marcus's face had turned pale white. Jessica, it is way more complicated than she is making it sound. It is not complicated at all, I said firmly. Sometimes good people face hard times. And sometimes they overcome them through hard work. That is Marcus's real story. And it is a much better story than the fake one he has been telling everyone. That is when Marcus made the mistake that would cost him absolutely everything he had built. Marcus's face turned bright red as he set down his fork with shaking hands. You know what, Mom? I think you have said more than enough for one evening. You need to stop talking right now. The contempt and meanness in his voice was unmistakable. And it triggered something I had been holding back and suppressing for 3 years. Have I said enough? Because I feel like I am just getting started with the truth. Dorothy, Patricia said gently, clearly sensing the growing tension. Perhaps we should all just take a moment, and you will never be half the woman my mother-in-law is, Marcus exploded, pointing his finger at me across the formal dining table. Patricia built a massive empire from nothing at all. She understands what real success looks like. Not this victim mentality you have been carrying around for 30 years like a badge. The words hit me like a physical punch. But instead of crumbling and breaking down, I felt a strange sense of clarity wash over me. This was who my son really was deep down. Not the grateful child I raised with love. Not the successful businessman he pretended to be. But an entitled, bitter man who would rather destroy his mother than face the truth about himself. I stood up calmly and slowly, setting my napkin beside my plate. You are absolutely right, Marcus. Patricia is an incredibly impressive woman. She built something real and lasting with her own hands and intelligence. I turned to look directly at Patricia. Will she be covering your $200,000 in debts then? Because I am not sending you any more money starting today. The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Amanda's face went completely white. What debt? Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. What money are you talking about? We have not received a single cent from you. David started sweating visibly. You could see drops on his forehead. Mom, do not do this. Please. 3 years ago, your fiancé stole money from his client accounts, I said clearly. $200,000. When dangerous loan sharks came to collect, threatening to break his legs, I mortgaged my house and emptied my retirement savings to save his life. Amanda turned to stare at Marcus with her mouth open. Her eyes were filling with tears. I have been making payments on those loans ever since, I continued. $400 every single month for 36 months straight. I have got all the bank statements and loan papers if anyone wants to see proof. William cleared his throat uncomfortably. Dorothy, surely you cannot possibly mean Marcus. Amanda's voice was shaking badly. Is what she is saying true? Is any of this real? Marcus's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. He looked like a fish gasping for air. It is not like she is making it sound. It was not that bad. It was a temporary cash flow issue and problem. The investments would have paid off and worked if you had not stolen other people's money to make them. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Would you like to see the loan payment I made just last Monday? Or should I show everyone the mortgage papers from my house? Patricia was staring at Marcus with a mixture of shock and something that looked almost like respect for me. Not for him. $400 a month, she repeated slowly, doing the math. That is almost $5,000 a year. For 3 years straight. While he has been telling us about his family money and trust fund and his mother's financial success and real estate portfolio. Amanda stood up abruptly. Tears were streaming down her face. I need some air. Cannot breathe. She rushed from the dining room, leaving Marcus sitting there looking like the house of cards he built was finally collapsing on top of him. William broke the awkward, heavy silence. Marcus, I think you should go after her right now. This is your fault, Marcus hissed at me as he stood up fast. His voice was full of poison. You have completely ruined everything I built. No, son. You did that all by yourself when you chose lies over truth. After Marcus left to find Amanda, I turned to Patricia and William, feeling exhausted. I apologize for disrupting your lovely evening. I should go now. Wait, Patricia said, standing up as well. Please do not apologize and do not leave yet. William, would you give us a moment alone, please? William nodded and left the dining room quietly, closing the doors behind him. Patricia poured herself another glass of wine and gestured for me to sit back down. How long have you been covering for him and protecting him? I sank back into my chair, feeling the weight of 3 years. Too long. Way too long. I should have stopped years ago. And the monthly payments. How much exactly? $647. On what kind of income, if you do not mind me asking? Social Security and 2 part-time jobs at a craft store and a library. It does not leave much left over for anything else after I pay those loans. Patricia was quiet for a long moment, swirling the wine slowly in her glass. You know what I see when I look at you, Dorothy? I see exactly the kind of woman I would want fighting beside me during a crisis. Smart, loyal, strong, and tough as nails. I do not feel very smart right now sitting here. Are you kidding me? You just saved my daughter from marrying a liar and a thief and a con artist. That is the smartest thing anyone has done in this house all year. Amanda broke off the engagement that very night. Right there in the Chen's beautiful foyer while I was collecting my coat to leave. I heard David's voice through the closed study doors, alternating between desperate pleading and angry shouting. But Amanda's response was clear and final and strong. I cannot marry someone I do not really know, Marcus. And I do not know you at all. I do not even know who you are. Patricia walked me to my car herself. Something I suspected did not happen often with the family's hired drivers waiting outside. Dorothy, I meant what I said in there. You did the right thing tonight. The only right thing. I destroyed my relationship with my son forever. Your son destroyed his relationship with you the moment he decided his fake image was more important than your sacrifices and your truth. Patricia handed me her business card with her personal number. I would like to stay in touch if you do not mind. I have a feeling we have more to talk about. I drove home in a complete daze, expecting to feel crushing guilt about exposing Marcus's lies to everyone. Instead, I felt something I had not experienced in years and years. Relief. Pure relief. The truth was finally out in the open. Marcus did not call for 3 weeks. When he finally did call, his voice was cold and bitter and full of blame. "I hope you are happy, Mom. Amanda will not take my calls or texts. Her family thinks I am a criminal. My career is essentially over now." "Your career was built on lies and theft, Marcus. This was inevitable. It was always going to happen. Was it worth it? Was destroying my life worth proving your point and getting revenge?" The question hung between us in the silence for a long moment. "I did not destroy your life, son. I just stopped enabling you to destroy mine." He hung up without another word. I did not hear from him again. Few days later, Patricia called me. Not texted or emailed. She called me personally on the phone. "Dorothy, I have been thinking a lot about our conversation at dinner. Do you have time for coffee this week? I would love to talk more." We met at a small quiet cafe, far removed from the formal elegance of the Chen estate. Patricia looked different in casual clothes. More approachable. Less intimidating. More real. "How are you holding up after everything?" she asked after we had ordered our coffee. "Honestly, better than I expected. Has been hard with Marcus, but also freeing, I guess. I had not realized how completely exhausting it was to keep track of all his lies." Patricia nodded like she understood completely. "I have been thinking a lot about what you said about your financial situation. Those monthly loan payments. They must be incredibly challenging on a fixed limited income. I manage somehow. I always find a way. I'm sure you do. But here is the thing, Dorothy. I have been thinking about our conversation, and I would like to make you a business proposition." I looked at her curiously, confused. "What do you mean?" "You managed to research loan options across multiple different banks, negotiate terms and rates, and create a financial structure that solved a complex crisis, all while working multiple jobs and living on a very limited income. That takes serious financial intelligence and skill. I just did what any mother would do." "Exactly. You solved a complex financial crisis under extreme pressure with almost no resources. Do you have any idea how valuable that kind of experience is?" Before I could answer or process what she was saying, Patricia continued speaking. "I have been considering expanding Chen Digital Systems into financial consulting services for middle-class families. People who need real practical advice, not theoretical investment strategies from advisors who have never had to struggle to make a budget work or stretch a dollar." I stared at her in shock. "What are you suggesting exactly?" "I am suggesting we explore working together. Maybe start with a consulting arrangement. See how it develops naturally. I need someone who understands what financial security actually means to ordinary working people. Someone who has actually lived paycheck to paycheck and found creative ways to make impossible budgets work." The suggestion was unexpected and overwhelming. "Think about it carefully," Patricia said. "But Dorothy, you have spent years putting your financial skills to work saving other people. Maybe it is time to put them to work building something for yourself." I spent 2 weeks researching Chen Digital Systems before calling Patricia back. What I found impressed me and surprised me. The company was profitable and ethical and run with the kind of long-term thinking that most businesses forget about in pursuit of quick profits. "I am interested in exploring this further," I told Patricia when I called her back finally. "But I want to understand exactly what you are proposing. What would this look like?" "Lunch tomorrow. I will show you some preliminary ideas and plans I have been developing." The meeting was at Patricia's downtown office in a tall building. A corner office with beautiful views of the water. But Patricia was not interested in impressing me with a fancy view. "Here is what I have been researching," she said, spreading thick market analysis reports across the conference table. "There is a huge underserved market segment that nobody is helping. Middle-class families, small business owners, people who need financial planning and help but cannot afford the big fancy investment firms." I studied the reports carefully. The market research was solid and convincing, showing clear demand. "You want to create a financial consulting service for regular everyday people. I want to create a service that actually helps real people with real problems. Your experience managing complex financial challenges on a very limited income is exactly the kind of practical expertise this market desperately needs. We spent 2 hours going over market analysis and discussing potential approaches. Patricia had clearly been thinking about this for a while. What would you envision my role being initially? Starting out. Consultant and advisor. Help me understand the market deeply. Develop our approach. Maybe run some small pilot programs. If it works out well, she paused. Well, we could discuss a more formal partnership arrangement down the line. The gradual approach made sense. A trial period would benefit both of us. Patricia, I appreciate your confidence. But I am 65 years old with only a high school education. Are you absolutely sure about this? Dorothy, you just described exactly the background I need. Someone who understands regular people's financial challenges because you have actually lived them yourself. I was about to accept her offer when my phone started ringing. Marcus's name appeared on the screen. I should take this call, I said apologetically. Marcus's voice sounded strange. Panicked and scared. I need to ask you something and I need you to answer me honestly and truthfully. Have you talked to anyone from the FBI lately? My blood went cold. The Federal Bureau of Investigation. Marcus, why would the FBI want to talk to me? Because they are investigating my business activities and transactions. They want to know about any family members who might have provided financial backing for my tech consulting work. Marcus, you told me you had cleaned up your act after I bailed you out. You promised me. I did clean up. This is about something completely different. Look, if they call you, you need to tell them you never gave me money for business investments. The loans you took out, those were personal loans for personal debts, not business investment capital. Marcus, what did you do? What trouble are you in now? Nothing. I mean, nothing illegal. It is complicated and messy, but some of my recent business deals are being questioned. And if they think I used family money to artificially inflate my business success. Patricia was watching me carefully from across the table, clearly hearing Marcus's panicked voice through the phone. Marcus, I cannot lie to federal investigators. That is a crime. You are not lying, Mom. You did not give me money for investments. You gave me money to pay personal debts. That is different. What kind of recent business deals are being investigated? Silence. Then a quiet voice. Mom, I might need to borrow some more money. Just temporarily until this investigation blows over and goes away. That was when I realized Marcus had not learned anything at all from his first brush with financial disaster. He was still gambling, still lying, still scheming, still expecting me to clean up his messes. No, Marcus. I'm done. Completely done. Mom, you do not understand. If the FBI finds serious problems, I could go to prison. Federal prison. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you broke the law again. I hung up and looked at Patricia, who was sitting very still. I'm so sorry you heard that, I said quietly. Do not apologize. But Dorothy, if federal investigators want to talk to you about Marcus's activities, you are going to need a really good lawyer. Cannot afford a good lawyer. Not even close. Patricia smiled grimly. You can if you are a partner in Chen Digital Systems. Our legal team is excellent and they will make absolutely sure you are protected. It was not the way I had expected to accept a business partnership. But sometimes life makes decisions for you. When do we start? The FBI investigators called 4 days later. Patricia's lawyers were sitting right beside me when I answered their questions honestly and completely. Yes, I had loaned my son money to pay gambling debts and repay stolen client funds. No, I had never provided capital for his business investment activities. Yes, I had detailed bank records documenting every single transaction. What the investigators told me explained Marcus's panic. He had been running a complex scheme where he used borrowed money to artificially inflate his business volume and success, creating the appearance of a thriving consulting business that attracted more clients. When those clients hired him and paid him, he used their money to pay back his earlier debts and fund increasingly risky business ventures. It was a house of cards that was always going to collapse eventually. The only question was how many innocent people would get hurt when it did. Your son is looking at serious federal fraud charges, the lead investigator told me. Wire fraud, business fraud, possibly money laundering. We are talking about a minimum of 7 years in federal prison. I felt sick to my stomach but also strangely relieved at the same time. Marcus's lies were finally catching up with him. And this time, there was no amount of money I could borrow to save him from the consequences. The arrest happened 3 weeks later. I saw it on the evening local news before Marcus's lawyer called me. Federal agents arrested tech consultant Marcus Chan this morning on charges of wire fraud and money laundering. Prosecutors say Chan ran a scheme that defrauded clients of over $300,000. I turned off the television and sat in my quiet apartment, trying to process that my son was going to prison. Patricia called that same evening. "How are you holding up?" she asked gently. "I keep thinking I should feel worse than I do. What kind of mother does not fall apart when her son gets arrested? The kind who spent years watching him make the same mistakes over and over again. Dorothy, you did not cause this. You could not have prevented it. And you certainly cannot fix it." She was absolutely right. I had spent so many years trying to save Marcus from himself that I had almost forgotten who I was outside of that exhausting role. "Are you still interested in the partnership?" Patricia asked carefully. "I will completely understand if you need time to process everything." "I am more interested than ever," I said firmly. "I am tired of cleaning up other people's messes. I want to build something positive and helpful for a change." We launched Dorothy Financial Consulting 9 months later, after a successful pilot program. What started as a consulting arrangement had grown into a true partnership when our test clients showed remarkable improvement in their financial situations. Patricia offered me a 35% stake in the new division. More than fair, considering she was providing all the startup capital and office infrastructure. Our very first official client was a single mother living in the Bronx who worked 2 jobs and needed help creating a realistic budget that would let her start saving for her daughter's college education. Sitting across from her in our modest downtown office, explaining how to track expenses and identify realistic savings opportunities, I realized this was what I had been preparing for my entire adult life. Every financial crisis I had navigated alone. Every impossible budget I had somehow made work. Every sacrifice I had made to keep our heads above water. It had all been training for this exact moment. Marcus was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. I wrote him one letter after the sentencing, telling him I loved him but could not continue to enable his destructive choices. I wished him well and told him I hoped he would use his time in prison to figure out who he wanted to be when he finally got out. He never wrote back to me. 2 years later, Dorothy Financial Consulting has helped over 400 families improve their financial situations and build better futures. We specialize in what Patricia calls real-world money management, teaching people how to make their dollars stretch further, how to plan for unexpected emergencies, how to build real security on limited incomes. Patricia and I make an unlikely team. She brings business experience, connections, and financial backing. I bring 3 decades of experience making impossible budgets work through sheer determination. Together, we have created something neither of us could have built alone. The best part. Every single month, when those loan payments automatically deduct from my checking account, $400 that once felt like a crushing burden, I do not feel the old resentment and bitterness anymore. Those payments represent the price I paid to learn who my son really was. And who I could become when I finally stopped enabling him. Sometimes the most expensive lessons turn out to be the most valuable ones. And sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is to stop saving them from the natural consequences of their own choices. I am Dorothy Chen, and I am finally living my own life instead of paying for someone else's mistakes. Thanks so much for listening to my story. Do not forget to subscribe to Granny's Voice and feel free to share your own story in the comments below. Your voice matters too. Amanda reached out to me 6 months after everything happened. She sent a handwritten letter to my apartment. Not an email or text message. An actual letter. "Dear Mrs. Chen," she wrote. "I have been wanting to reach out for months, but I was not sure if you would want to hear from me. I wanted to thank you for what you did at that dinner. You saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. I also wanted you to know that I never thought less of you for your background. If anything, learning the truth made me respect you more than I can express. What you did for Marcus, sacrificing everything to save him, that is real love. What he did to you, lying and using you, that is unforgivable. I hope you are doing well. If you ever want to have coffee, I would love to see you again. With gratitude, Amanda. I called her the next day and we met for coffee that weekend. She looked different. More serious. More grown up. Less naive. How are you doing? I asked. Better. Much better, actually. I am dating someone new. Someone honest. She smiled. And I am working with my father at the company now. Learning the business from the ground up. I am proud of you, Amanda. You handled everything with such grace. I wanted to fall apart, she admitted. But then I thought about you. How strong you had to be all those years. If you could survive what you went through, I could survive a broken engagement. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about her new life. I told her about the consulting business with her mother. We laughed. We cried a little. And we became friends. Real friends. Not connected by Marcus anymore, but by genuine affection. A year later, Amanda invited me to her wedding. Not to Marcus, obviously. To a kind accountant named James who treated her like gold. I sat in the second row, wearing a dress I bought with money I earned from my own business. Patricia sat beside me. During the reception, Amanda pulled me aside. I want you to know something, she said. When I think about the kind of mother I want to be someday, I think about you. Not the lies Marcus told. The truth. A woman who worked 3 jobs to give her child opportunities. Who sacrificed everything. Who stayed strong even when life was impossibly hard. That is the kind of mother I want to be. I hugged her tight, crying happy tears. Those words meant more to me than any amount of money ever could. Marcus was released from federal prison after serving 6 years. He called me the week he got out. Mom, his voice was different. Quieter. Humbler. Can we talk? I agreed to meet him at a diner. Neutral territory. He looked older. Thinner. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a simple shirt. I'm sorry, he said immediately. For everything. For lying. For using you. For being ashamed of you. For taking advantage of your love. I listened without interrupting. I have had 6 years to think about what I did. About who I became. And Mom, I am so ashamed. You gave me everything and I threw it back in your face. I do not expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I finally understand what I did. Do you understand why I had to stop enabling you? Yes. Do now. In prison, I met men who had families that kept bailing them out, kept making excuses, kept enabling. They never changed. They never had to. Because someone always rescued them. You loved me enough to let me fall. That saved my life. We talked for 3 hours. He told me about his time in prison. The therapy. The education classes. The moment he finally looked at himself honestly. I told him about the business. About my friendship with Amanda. About my new life. I do not expect us to go back to how things were, he said. I know I destroyed that. But maybe if you are willing we could start over. Build something new. Something honest. I am willing to try, I told him. But Marcus, no more lies. Ever. No more lies, he promised. And this time I could see in his eyes that he meant it. It has been 8 months since Marcus got out of prison. We have coffee every Sunday morning. He works at a non-profit now, helping at-risk youth. He lives in a modest apartment and drives an old car. He is rebuilding his life slowly and honestly. Last Sunday he brought someone to coffee. This is Sarah, he said nervously. She is, well, we have been seeing each other for a few months. Sarah was a social worker. Kind eyes. Warm smile. Simple clothes. It is so wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Chen. Marcus talks about you constantly. Good things, I hope. The best things, Sarah said. He told me everything. About his past. His mistakes. What you did for him. What he put you through. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I told her everything because I am not hiding anymore. Not from her. Not from myself. Not from anyone. That is when I knew my son had finally grown up. Patricia and I are expanding the consulting business. We are opening a second office in Brooklyn. Hiring more consultants. People like me. People who have lived through financial struggles and come out stronger. People who understand that real financial wisdom does not come from business school. Comes from making $5 stretch to feed a family. From choosing between medicine and groceries. From finding creative solutions when there is no money left. We are also starting a scholarship program. For single mothers going back to school. For kids from low-income families pursuing education. For anyone who needs a hand up, not a handout. The first scholarship. We named it the Dorothy Chen Second Chance Scholarship. Because everyone deserves a second chance. Even my son. Last month I paid off the final loan payment. $647. The last payment of many. I sat in my apartment, looking at the bank confirmation on my phone. All paid in full. Debt cleared. I waited to feel relief. Or joy. Or triumph. But what I felt was gratitude. Gratitude for the struggle that made me strong. Gratitude for the pain that taught me wisdom. Gratitude for the sacrifice that showed me who I really was. That money I gave Marcus, it was not wasted. It bought me something priceless. It bought me the truth. About him. About myself. About what really matters. And that truth set me free. I am 67 years old now. I own my own business. I have genuine friendships. I have a relationship with my son built on honesty instead of obligation. I have a life I built for myself, not for someone else. Do I wish things had been different? Sometimes. Do I wish Marcus had been grateful from the start? Course. Do I wish I had not had to lose so much before finding myself? Absolutely. But I also know this. The woman I am today, she was forged in those fires. The strength I have now, it came from those struggles. The wisdom I can share, it came from those mistakes. And I would not trade who I have become for anything. Not even to erase the pain. My son was right about one thing. I will never be half the woman my mother-in-law is. Because Patricia and I, we are equals, partners, friends. Two strong women who found each other through pain and built something beautiful. I am Dorothy Chen. I cleaned hospital floors for 30 years. I raised a son alone. I sacrificed everything. I was lied to and used. I hit rock bottom. And I rose up stronger than ever. This is my story. And it is not a story about what was done to me. It is a story about what I did for myself. About finding my voice. About claiming my worth. About refusing to be defined by someone else's shame. If you are watching this and you are struggling, if you are sacrificing everything for someone who does not appreciate it, if you are hiding who you really are to make someone else comfortable, I want you to hear this. You are enough. Exactly as you are. Your struggle does not make you less. Makes you strong. Your sacrifice does not make you weak. Makes you powerful. And your truth does not need to be hidden. It deserves to be celebrated. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's story. Stop paying for someone else's mistakes. Stop enabling someone else's lies. Start living your own truth. Start building your own future. Start celebrating your own strength. Because you are enough. You have always been enough. And anyone who cannot see that, they do not deserve you. Thank you for listening to my story on Granny's Voice. If this resonated with you, please subscribe and share your own story in the comments. Because your voice matters. Your story matters. You matter. And remember, the best revenge is not proving someone wrong. The best revenge is proving yourself right. About who you are. About what you can do. About what you deserve. I am Dorothy Chen, and I am finally, truly, completely free. Last week I got a letter from Marcus. Not asking for money. Not making excuses. Just sharing something he wanted me to know. Mom, he wrote. I am teaching a financial literacy class at the community center. Teaching kids from low-income families how to budget, how to save, how to avoid the mistakes I made. Yesterday, a teenage girl raised her hand and said her mom works 3 jobs. She asked if that made them poor. And I told her what I should have said years ago. I told her that having a parent who works 3 jobs does not make you poor. Makes you rich. Rich in love. Rich in sacrifice. Rich in the kind of strength that money cannot buy. I told her my mom worked 3 jobs. And I was the richest kid in the world. I just did not know it until I lost everything. Thank you for listening.